Welcome everyone to our VWEC Metaverse Expert Series. We're so glad to see you and that you joined us for today's very interesting presentation and discussion. For those of you who are new, our website I just put in the chat, and you can find VWEC on many social media channels. Again, I've put another link in there that you can go visit. After our presentation, we will move to the deck for a more informal conversation and social time for those who are able to stay. We are also pleased to offer our expert series presentations in both text and chat. Text for all that use voice is shared on our YouTube live stream channel, which I also just put in the chat. You can find this in the sign in front of our stage as well. And speaking of signs, we would like to know how you find out about our events. Our survey plant is a quick survey that is of great help to us. If you could just fill it out and feel free to send along any comments you have. We would also like to thank you all for joining us for this presentation. So I am happy to introduce our Metaverse expert speaker to you. Jason, I don't know actually, Jason, you'll have to, I'm sorry, Alexander, could you please tell us how to pronounce your name, your last name? But anyway.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexander, and the last name is Yevsyeyev.
Okay, yeah, I would never get that. So
right.
Alexander left a tech director position where he led 15 people to create more value for people. He then created Equimake, a free 3D web platform for learners and creators, which empowers beginners and professionals to experiment and build their 3D projects online. It's free, easy to use, and has a low entry barrier. Alex was actually recommended by Wagner James Au, a close partner of Equimake. And Equimake is a collaborative and 3D platform that's designed for beginners and professionals who are looking to experiment and build their 3D projects online. It has 1,600 users from more than 70 countries in 4 months. So they aim to make 3D affordable to others and lower the entry barrier to 3D technology, similar to what Canva and Figma do for 2D design. So I'm going to be quiet now and give Alexander the floor.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So first of all, Marie, Val, and Becky, thank you so much for organizing this event. It's been a pleasure. So my name is Alex. I'm the founder and CEO of Equimake. As Marie said, last year I quit my full-time job as a tech director in order to start Equimake. I used to build applications for Unity and Sony and led a team of 15 people, consisting of professional 3D artists, programmers, and testers. So I built Equimake, which is a collaborative 3D platform that empowers anyone to create professional 3D experiences for the web, regardless of their skill level. So in order to make this presentation a little bit more interactive, I would like to ask you a few questions. And one question that I have for you is, what percentage of users do you think actively create 3D worlds and games on platforms like Second Life, Unity, and others? Just to clarify, creator, a user who is not just consuming the content, but the one who, for example, tries to educate others, create virtual worlds, or contributes art, or contributes in any way. So please write in chat if you think it's more than 20% of users which are creators. All right. How about between 10 and 20% which are creators? Okay, so Val think it's 10, 20. Okay, awesome. And who thinks that's less than 5%? Okay, and thinks it's 20%? All right, so, well, you'll be surprised that it's actually only 1% of user base on any creative platform that is actually creating. So really, this puzzled me for a while, and I decided to dig into it a little more. So I spoke to so many Second Life users, but also before I tell you what I learned from them, how many of you tried creating in 3D using Blender or Second Life? Awesome. So how many of you have given up because it's too complicated, expensive, or just time consuming? Right, Blender is really hard. I agree, Tom. And how many of you still create, or at least want to create? Awesome, lots of people would love to. That's all right. You don't need to be an expert, but anyways. So what I did, first of all, thanks a lot for participating in answering. So I spoke to about 200 people in Second Life, and some of those people are here more than 10 years. And so oftentimes they would tell me that they gave up creating or never tried because they found it too difficult, sometimes too expensive, and sometimes even feel lonely or isolating. All right. So I was thinking, what would be one takeaway from this presentation? And I realized that I just want to compel you to create a 3D world on Equimake. Share it with people you might know, and then get them to create too. Well, you might ask, Alexander, why is it important to create? Well, the goal here is to show others how easy it is to break this entry barrier to 3D technology. It makes others realize that they don't need to be tech savvy. So simple as that. You go to equimake.com, create a world, and share it around. It should only take you maybe a minute or two. So if you worry about not being 3D artist, don't worry. We have a library of 3D assets that you can use. And if you can also upload your own content or download it from Sketchfab. Sketchfab is it's a free kind of marketplace where you can download 3D assets. On Equimake, this is the community page. You can collaborate and visit user profiles. You can see what users have created. You can follow them or get followers. You can like their experiences. And what's even better is that you can go into any of the experiences you see on your community page. And if somebody's online, you can, in real time, say hi to them, see them building, and eventually maybe even create together. But I didn't want to make this presentation about the platform's features. I'm not here to sell you my platform. I'm here to tell you stories. Stories behind people who have used Equimake to create their 3D experiences, and tell you a little bit more about early days of Equimake. So I launched Equimake on April 24th, just 6 months ago. And on April 25th, a user by nickname Sanzu has joined the platform. Basically, as soon as I released the platform, what I used to do is if I see somebody is online, I would try to go into their world, say hi, introduce myself, and just try to get to know them and understand what they're looking for. What was interesting about Sanzu is that he was looking for ways to create a gallery. So what I did is I told him that he could use a library of 3D assets, and there was a 3D gallery object in it. And then I told him that he can upload his own art. And I think I took a break for 10-15 minutes, and I come back to my computer, and what I see is Sanzu has built an entire gallery and uploaded his art. And I spoke to him again, and I realized that after talking to him that his name is David, and he's actually a war veteran. What was interesting about David is that after he built this gallery in just 10 minutes, he then proceeded to build 2 more worlds for 2 of his friends. Luckily, 2 of those friends were music artists. So they either produced music or used AI to produce music. And David has just created 2 worlds for them, and he embedded their YouTube playlists. So anyone can go into this experience and then listen to the music of his friends. So that was interesting. So that was the first day of the launch of Equimake. And then I was able to get in touch with a Twitch streamer. She was going by a name Fee, and she lives in Australia. And if you see in the bottom left, it's her avatar, and I think it's called VTubing, which basically streamers use their hidden identity to stream their either development or gaming to others. And Fee, I think she had an audience of about 50 people. And I decided to reach out to her and ask if she would be interested to use Equimake with her audience. And luckily enough, she was very keen to say yes. And so what you see here is an event, a live event that occurred, that the whole premise was to build a village. So what I did is I uploaded a packs of assets, which were specific style and had building blocks like walls, grass, stones, and Fee has built this nice island, as you see on the screen right now. And yeah, she invited her audience to come together and collaborate. It was a very fun and engaging experience for her audience. And the audience was able to interact with their favorite streamer. What was interesting about this event that it took place synchronously. And then for the rest of the week, it was more of an asynchronous type of building where people would just come in when they can to finish up their village. So if you see here on the top left, there is somebody's building a nice little village over there, and then there is a house in the middle, and somebody has a pool with some character in it. So after this event, one user in particular from Philippines had decided to stick around. And so I reached out to them because I wanted to know more about them. Why would they come back so often? It turned out that this person had no knowledge of Blender, had no knowledge of 3D or any of those complicated game engines, but she has asked her audience to create a fish and send the fish to her. And this particular user has created the fish using the assets which never meant to be for creation of a fish. So that was very interesting for me, that somebody spent that much time. I think they spent about an hour or two, but they were able to create a fish made out of wood, metal, and rocks, basically. So yeah, that was very interesting to see somebody who never knew how to use Blender or 3D using free assets on Equimake in this particular way. Next, here we have more of an educational use case. So that was very interesting to see. Basically, this particular user has visualized the traffic, the problem of traffic, and how much space do cars really take in comparison to a bus. That was very interesting because I don't exactly know what people who want to use Equimake for, but I do know that it's definitely to communicate information. So in this particular case, the user wanted to talk about also fuel efficiency and just kind of show how our current system is not very eco-friendly and how it can be improved. If only we could take more of public transport. So here's more of the visualization. And if you can see here, they were able to annotate the 3D experience. So it's not just 3D art that you upload and that's it. You can actually put those points in space, which you can attach a title and a description to, and then you can guide your user through a story. So basically, you could create a 3D story in Equimake. Here's another one by another user. I think this user is particularly present right now in this event, but what they decided to build is a classroom, and they embedded a very educational video. So anyone who joins this experience could hit play and then learn about DNA and the history, the biology behind it. Here I have the screenshot of how the YouTube integration actually works. You can click the video, you can roll back it, so you have full functionality of a YouTube. Here's another one. So once I started to see that the users are particularly interested in educational use cases, we decided to speak to a few educators in Toronto, especially public schools. And they had a problem. One particular educator had a problem of students being engaged. Because nowadays everybody has a phone, it's easy to get distracted. And they were looking maybe for ways to engage the student a little bit more into the educational process. Well, I asked, okay, well, how can Equimake really help? Because it would be difficult to kind of recreate the entire classroom experience on Equimake. And so this user just asked me if I could create a classroom and maybe embed some material to it and just send them to them. So I built this little classroom that had periodic table. It had the video embedded in it, and it had some key points. And when I sent it out to this educator, well, I got ghosted. Basically, I don't know, for some reason the educator never came back, and I just realized, okay, well, maybe I wasn't providing enough value in this particular use case. But then, complete new user. Let me just switch the presentation. Here we go. Complete new user decided to visualize biology. So, and then I later learned that this user is totally not technical. They had no knowledge of 3D at all. But what they did is that they found a 3D model of biological cell, and they found some information on Wikipedia. And what they did, they just uploaded this cell, and they annotated each of the parts of the cell. And what we did, we just take this experience as an example and send it out to lots of public schools in Toronto, here in Montreal. Sorry, I didn't say I'm from Canada. So we sent a lot to Toronto, to Montreal, and we got some interesting feedback from it. We were able to embed those little 3D experiences in some of the curriculums on schools' websites. So, for example, you don't necessarily need to tell the user to go to Equimake. You can easily embed any 3D experience on your website or in your curriculum. So that was very interesting, that we could keep the student on the same page when they learn the material and still get engaged to some extra 3D context without leaving the platform where they learn the material. So that was also a very interesting use case here. And then we had another user who I learned that was also not super technical. And I think they spent about, I've seen them online almost every day, trying to put new things, experiment around. And I try to talk to them. I say, hey, like, how are you? Tell me about yourself. And it was very interesting. Apparently, they're also a Second Life user. And they just decided to build a gallery where they embed a bunch of videos, images, they put their favorite music, and then they even embed this to their blog. So they blogged about Equimake and embedded this gallery. So now that you got your imagination a little bit going with all of those use cases, I also wanted to tell you that in June, I partnered with Wagner James Au, who is an author of Making the Metaverse That Matters. And through his connection, I was able to get in touch with few educators. And James, in particular, introduced me to Virtual Worlds Education Consortium. And so one educator in particular was keen to create few experiences themselves. His name is Christian Jonathan Angel Rueda, and he is a professor at First Bilingual University in Santiago de Curado, Mexico. What's interesting about this educator is that 2 months ago, he gave an assignment to about 20 or 25 students from Mexico. And what do you think students would want to build in Equimake? Well, here's the first one. Somebody just wanted to visualize a shoe, a fashion. I found it pretty amusing. And so I think the assignment was go on the Sketchfab, find a 3D model, upload it to Equimake, and add annotation. So tell a story. So this one user just decided to visualize a shoe. Of course, next one is cars. I'm sure everyone loves cars. I think there was about 4 or 5 experiences that had cars. And then we started going to more interesting use cases. Somebody actually wanted to visualize a T-Rex and tell about history of a T-Rex. Here we have somebody who wanted to visualize yacht and embedded a video explaining how it all works behind. And of course, game development. I think this is the first thing that students like, an ability to make their own game. Interesting thing about Equimake right now is that you won't be able to make a game, but you can definitely design a scene and prototype a scene. What we plan to do is introduce ability to add behavior to your art. So you will be able to make a game. It's coming very soon. But before I go any further into use cases, I want to tell you a story about one of those students. So it was very difficult for me to talk to them. Well, number one, it's a language barrier. I don't know Spanish. And number two, they were pretty secretive. When they got into on the platform and they created their first experience, first of all, when you create an experience, it's public by default. Like it's public on community page. But those students were going to settings right away and make it private, because there is a setting that you can make it private. So about 10 of those students preferred privacy right away, but few students were public. And so I decided to go to one particular student and use Google Translate to talk to them. So I say, as usual, hi, my name is Alexander. I'm the creator of Equimake. And in parentheses, I always put, I'm not AI. I learned the hard way that nowadays people think that I'm an AI when I talk to them, because they just don't expect somebody to, talk to them. They think I'm a robot. So I had to clarify that I'm not AI. And he says, okay, you're the creator of Equimake. Why are you talking to me? And I say, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I know your teacher. And I said the teacher's name. And he says, how do you know him? And I say, well, through LinkedIn, we connected. He's like, what's LinkedIn? And I say, okay, you know what? Never mind. If you have any questions about the platform, let me know. But please continue. And he said, oh, okay, thank you so much. So yeah, that was kind of my experience talking to a student. Didn't work out, but at least I tried. So again, another students decided to build also visualize a game. Here's another one, more games. And then one student decided to actually visualize a museum. They found a very nice and interesting museum, and then they uploaded it and put annotations to tell a little bit more about different rooms of this museum. And yeah, so you could see the quality of 3D varies by the assets that you upload. Some assets are more cartoonish, some assets more photogrammetric. And speaking of photogrammetry, I don't know if you knew, but let me ask you a question. How many of you already know that you can create and capture 3D models just using your phone? Okay, Marie knows. Okay. So, all right. So there's two apps that you can use on your phone to capture any object from real world. All you need is your phone. Marie, you're right. If you have LiDAR, which is a sensor on your camera, then you will have better precision, better accuracy. But for anyone, like, you could just have your phone. And what the app does, it takes a bunch of images. All you need to do is just either record a video or take a bunch of images of the model, and then it's going to produce a 3D model for you, which is as scanned from real life. What I found is it works best for small objects. So in this case, I was lucky to get in touch with Professor Lichty. And Professor Lichty is a conceptual media artist, activist, and educator. He is currently a professor at Winona State University. And what he did, he photoscanned one of the broken sculptures he had in his office, and then he uploaded it to Equimake. The next slide, you see him actually uploading more content. And I think last week he visited Istanbul, Turkey, and he decided to take some of the snapshots of the city. So you can do that too. You can go outside and try to take a few of the pictures if you can, and then it will produce you 3D models, and you can then compose a 3D scene with it. Very easy and straightforward, and for free. Here, me and my co-founder, we decided to recreate a British museum in Equimake. So we found a model on Sketchfab. And by the way, we give all the proper credits to the author. So when you upload something to Equimake, you're prompt to give license. So you can either say that it's your creation and then you provide licensing, or you have to copy the Creative Commons licensing from Sketchfab and put it on the platform. and then everybody else will be able to see it. So here we have a British museum, and we decided to do like a live kind of collaborative build with me and my co-founder. And this video of how we built this is on Equimake's YouTube. So what we did, we decided to annotate different parts of the museum, and we embedded the video so the viewers can see and learn more about the British Museum. And yeah, it's pretty much was pretty much photorealistic. Yes, it had some minor things you need to fix, but for most part, you upload more models and then you put annotations, and voila, you got yourself a digital museum for free that runs globally. And of course, I believe that accessibility matters a lot. So we decided to go with web platform, and it works on mobile as well as your computer and your tablets. In fact, we have about 60% of traffic coming from computers, PC. About 38% is mobile, and 2% coming from tablets. So not so many tablets users. And speaking of accessibility, because it's web-based, you can easily translate entire platform to any language using your browser. Usually it's right-click, translate to, and then you choose the language you want to translate. So here I translated entire Equimake to Spanish, and here is French, French language. And of course, it works on mobile, and yeah, you can create and explore on mobile and on your computer as well. So remember I asked you at the beginning to create a 3D world on Equimake, share it with people you might know, and then get them to create too? Well, I hope you do it, because I believe that you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. A nice round of applause. That was really, really interesting. We can ask questions in chat, or we can, I did see one question in chat that we could start out with, but you can also use voice if you want. The first question that I saw was, is it decent enough? So we were talking about creating the 3D environment using the phone, using your phone, I believe. And the question was, is it decent enough that I could be hiking in a woodland and it would produce it all in 3D?
That's a very good question. So unfortunately, on just your phone, probably not. If you want to get into it a little bit more, there is a way to do it with a drone. So you could technically get a drone with a all-right camera and then do a photo scan of almost like, yeah, like a big patch of forest. And I think there's a lot of, on Sketchfab, I've seen a lot of photo scans of cities even. With just your phone, I think you could be looking at scanning trees, bushes, rocks, maybe small pieces of land, but no, not the entire forest.
So how detailed, I guess. So I guess the question, how detailed would this produce? I guess what would be the limit on size, for example, that you could create and then upload? Because some of those point clouds are massive.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Okay, I see now. So basically for free, what we give to Equimake is about 2 gigabytes of storage, and then each upload has a limit of 100 megabytes. I think what you see on the screen right now is Professor Lichty's photo scan. It's not much, but I think all those models, I think it's about 3 or 4 models here, that would only be about 15 to 20 megabytes. So yes, point clouds are massive, but when you actually export them to a 3D mesh, it basically approximates the, it does an approximation, which makes the object small in size. We also, when you upload something to Equimake, we apply compression. for you. So if you upload, let's say 500 megabyte file, it's highly likely that it will get optimized to the limit of 100 megabytes. So I hope that answers.
Right, because if you go to Sketchfab, for example, you can find a lot of scans of famous places, right? But if you download them, sometimes there are millions of polygons. So would Equimake optimize that for you, or it wouldn't accept it?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. So luckily right now for a lot of hardware, what we have on computers and phones, we can deal with about 10 to 20 millions of polygons without an issue. So definitely photogrammetric, when it comes out, it's not, I would say, real-time ready. But in applications like Polycam and reality capture, it does optimize some of those triangles and does shave off the polygon count. What I plan to do is to have a basic maybe 3D editor on the platform. So when you upload something to Equimake, you can edit it a little bit, and maybe you can optimize it even further if you want. And it should be fairly easy to do. Drag and drop 3D model. If it tells you that, hey, it's very big, there's a button that says optimize, and it's going to optimize. But just to say, Bethany, yes, when you upload already something to Equimake, it automatically compresses the file for you, so you don't have to do anything. But to answer Marie's question, if the file is really, really large, there might need to be some manual work that needs to be done before.
Do we have some other questions from the audience? How many people can be in Equimake simultaneously in the same experience? That's a great question.
Yeah, thanks. So we have, okay, sorry. We could have about 32,000 active users in one experience. And particularly why it's possible is because for now we don't have avatars. And so I think it might be a problem to some that there's no avatars, there's no spatial kind of recognition, who's who. But if I go a little bit back to my presentation, I want to show what do we do instead of avatars. So if you see basically where the lake is, there's a small nickname of the user, and then on the top left, when there's a village, there's another user. So anytime a user selects an object, you could see that they are present there. We do have 3D avatars on the roadmap, and once we add avatars, this limit of 32,000 users probably will go down by a lot, because once you have avatars, you have unique meshes that you need to replicate over network, and so this number might go maybe to 1,000. But as of now, you have a very high limit of users, which makes it perfect for collaborative sessions, buildings, reviews, and educative sessions as well.
So I imagine that 32,000 people in one space would be like really, really hard to deal with. But even with 1,000 people, you could do something that, for example, create a stadium, right? And that way maybe they would fit. Does the space in a particular build would be able to actually physically hold that many tags, I guess, or avatars?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, like if you have 1,000 people, it's important to know what they're doing. So in Equimake, we have an interesting role system, which by default, when the user joins your experience, they given a role, a viewer role. So just like Google Documents, when you share a document with someone, they could be either viewer, a commenter, or editor. We kind of have the same, but it's called viewer, contributor, and editor. So if you have 1,000 viewers who are just coming in to see what's going on, there won't be any issue. Now, if you have 1,000 editors who are actively putting something on the scene, the limit of the objects in the world is 10,000. So this, by the end of this particular build, I think it doesn't show the presentation right now doesn't show the final result. But I think at the end of the event, it was about 2,000 objects, and there was about 4 or 5 villages built, and it was running all right. We can still do further optimization to improve the experience even further. But yeah, so far we haven't seen a use case that would have that many people in one world. Okay, and that Bethany dashboard that kind of shows you visually.
I don't want to dominate the the conversation here, but so for those people in the audience, a bunch of us went into Equimake, I think it was last week, for the VR Exploders Club, and we played around with collaboration, and it was really quite good. One of my questions though is that there's how permissions work, right? So if you put down an object, can you share it with someone else? Or if you build an object, can you share it with someone else?
So may I ask, by sharing you mean could they borrow it and then use this object in another experience?
Yeah, so one of the things that I tried, one experiment I tried was that we had put a whole bunch of stuff in. A bunch of us had put a bunch of stuff into this test space that we created. And then there is an option to export to a GLB, right? And when we did that, only my objects appeared in the GLB. So I wasn't able to take copies, for example, of the objects that the other people put in.
That's a very interesting use case. So what you're describing is that you had a scene that you collaborated in, and you do trust your peers, and you wanted to export the entire scene, but because Equimake doesn't permit that, the objects that you received were only yours, right?
I mean, yes, it's a really it's a very common approach, but I think I guess it could be solved with some kind of permission system that would, like, if somebody put down their like they do here in Second Life, if you put down something that you built, and you can give maybe people in your group permission to copy it, to use it, to move it, to modify it. Yeah,
I totally see it. So just to answer the first part is, if you give someone an editor role, they will be able to modify your models, which are in 3D experience. If you give them contributor role, they will not be able to edit anything they don't own. When it comes to export, it's a very interesting use case you bring up. We can definitely edit. The reason why we prevented it by default is we did not want others to be able to steal the content of others. But if you trust your peers, what I want to do is to introduce teams, which basically would allow you to create a team and then add the peers to your team, and then by default everybody will trust each other, and then you'll be able to export all the models. But as of now, if you give someone editor role, they will be able to move your object, they will be able to modify it, but sadly they will not be able to export it. Yes. There's something I want also to say about the how you can use Equimake in not just so Equimake doesn't plan to compete with Spatial or Second Life or anything like that. The goal here is to play well in the ecosystem. And what you can do with Equimake is that you can have a group of people, maybe students and teachers, who come into the same 3D world, and you get to prototype a scene very quickly. You could use simple shapes, so you don't need to upload 3D models. There are simple primitives, just like in Second Life. And then what you can do, you can export the entire experience and bring it to Spatial, bring it to Unity, even bring it to Second Life as well. So this is another use case of how to use Equimake as a lighter alternative to, for example, Blender for quick prototyping.
So Bethany had a question about having a backend like Mozilla Hubs used to have, where the spoke editor that allows you to like create your model and then publish it.
I did work. Actually, interesting. You mentioned Mozilla Hubs. I was able to get in touch with the community of Mozilla, and I got into Discord. I'm basically on their Discord, and they give me moderator role to help them out, sort out some spammers. And I was able to introduce Equimake as an alternative to Spoke. Why? Because a lot of users that used Hubs found Spoke a little bit sometimes complicated. It does the job to decorate a scene and then import it to Hubs. But sadly, with Hubs shutting down, I noticed that every time, almost every day, somebody has an issue with self-hosting of Hubs. It takes either a lot of time to set it up, and it's a little bit complicated. And Equimake itself has those kind of like editing tools a little bit. Like you can move, scale, rotate models, and you can put more models. And eventually, we want to add more tools like audio zones, physics. So you can add interactions. So eventually it will become a full-fledged experience creator, just like Hubs and Spoke is.
Other questions, guys? I mean, it is a very easy to use platform, and I plan to use it in my class next semester for those students who find platforms like Second Life to be too difficult, and even now Spatial, because Spatial went to this model where really if you want to do anything of anything substantial, you have to learn how to use Unity. So this is a perfect, and it was sad when Hubs went away. So I feel like your Equimake has filled that gap that Hubs left.
Thank you, Marie. Absolutely. And you could see that in my presentation, the Mexican professor has given assignment to his students, and they were able to figure it out and actually collected some feedback from the students. And that was very valuable for us to continue improving the platform further. I do see some more questions in the chat, so I'm excited to jump in.
Will there be a voice? Will voice be an option, or do most people use Discord for voice?
That's a good question. I think as of now, you would use Discord or Zoom or Google Meet, depending on how do you interact with your peers. I will definitely keep it in mind to maybe being able to talk in voice in the browser without going through a third party.
And also, for all of the wonderful builds that you showed us, are those available? Like how would people go to equimake.com and find those?
Right. So it's very simple. You go to equimake.com, when you click Get Started, there's two options. What do you want to do? Explore or create. So regardless what you choose, you will always be able to do either of those. So after you click Explore, you will see the community page right away. If you click Create, you can still go back to Community and see the community page. Community page is always available after when you go to equimake.com, you will automatically get redirected to the home page, which will be the community.
Is there an in-space platform option? I guess if you understand that, you could answer that. I guess like a space environment, or you're in the space and then building there. Space environment, yes. Is there a space environment in one of the platforms that you can, or one of the scenes you can use?
Okay, I see what you mean. As of now, there's only kind of like a skybox by default, but you can definitely bring your own skybox and make it very, very large to create a space environment. And you can tweak the light settings to play around to make it like really, really dark if you want to. So yeah, I mean, it's up to your imagination, but what we plan to do is to support add templates, different use cases. So you don't start from scratch. You'll start with a set of art already. Yes, you can definitely make a Not you can create a sphere in Equimake, but if you want to put a texture in it, it's better you go through Blender or some other tool for now. But you can definitely get a space, for example, Sketchfab, bring it to Equimake, make it really, really large, and voila, you got yourself a space. Oh, so here we go, and I found one on Sketchfab. I'd like to go back a little. Sorry, Mary. Max asked, is there something like a Second Life URL for the DNA display? Yes. I'm going to drop it in the chat here. And by the way, when you share anything on social media, and when you share Equimake link to social media, you'll see, like, if you do it on Facebook or Twitter or Discord, you'll get a nice preview image of the experience, your name in it, and the name of the experience. So we have some nice social features which shows the author, show the experience and information about it.
There was another question here, is could it be shared with Google Classroom?
Could it be shared? You mean, okay, do you mean integrated with Google Classroom? Because you can share it just as a link, yes. May I ask, like, what type of integration would you look for? Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe we skipped it. Okay, I see. So you'd like to design games for students, for example, have them design plant cells and animal cells and get points for correct design. Yes, okay. So this is actually a very perfect use case for you. What makes Equimake very interesting is that it's real-time and collaborative. So anything that your students will do, you'll be able to see, give them a comment or a review live. And then you can also, of course, do it asynchronously. You know, when they already finished their design, you can go to their experience. What's interesting is that you can put annotations and you can let them know where they maybe didn't do maybe you can tell them when they do a good job and when they didn't do such a good job. So for example, here is the use case of an annotation. You can easily place it in 3D world and you can give some feedback there. What makes it then more interesting is that your students and you can then export what you designed to an actual game engine like Unreal or Unity or Godot. And I don't see why it couldn't be integrated with Google Classroom. When you sign into Equimake, you actually don't need to sign up with your login and password. If you have a Google account, you can sign in with Google. If you have Discord, you can do it with Discord or just your email. Is there an age limit? Yeah, well, so in our terms of service, we basically forbid any display of nudity, anything like that is forbidden. The platform is, however, 18+, but we do not tolerate any sort of sexual display. It's bannable right away, and we have a strict moderation on that.
And that's a really good question. Do you have, so for example, Roblox has some kind of a filter when you upload textures, and it's obviously automated. It's not a human looking at these things, and so it'll look at, for example, the name of the texture that you're uploading, and if it thinks that it might have some kind of sexual content, they automatically ban you. So are you looking at these on a case-by-case basis, or do you have some kind of a filter that would be able to recognize it?
It's a very good question. I think moderation is a forever kind of challenge, and for Roblox especially, because there's so many minors playing daily. At Equimake, basically, we try to partner with good companies that take privacy and moderation very seriously. So one of those companies is Cloudflare, and we are built on top of Cloudflare, and they do have a system behind that actually scan all the assets for pictures of, for example, missing children's. And as soon as there's a match, you'll get notified, and we'll have to right away speak to the required agency. When it comes to actually moderation of images, for example, we do use, for now, we use Imgur and Flickr. I think we will be dropping Flickr integration, but we will replace it with AI recognition, which basically recognizes the image before it is uploaded. And if it is, then we let it go. Right now, we already have the chat moderation. So if you try to swear or say some not nice things, your message will get hidden. And if you spam a lot of messages, you will get rate limited as well. We'll always continue to improve it. And for the 3D models, for now, we go case by case because it's not that trivial to do it, to moderate it. So you would need to go and see the models for now, but we will optimize it in the future.
So we did have another question about display of violence.
That's a very good question. We haven't seen that yet. Definitely, it's not something that would be very nice. So I think that would be bannable. Absolutely. So I just want to say, okay, they also want to design flying cars, and I asked them what would we use for a highway. They would have to be contained in some way. Okay, right, scripting.
Yeah, there was a question about if there's going to be options for scripting objects and scenes, and I think you might have answered that.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting use case about scripting is I think a lot of people in Second Life really like the SL script, and some people still do heavily use the SL script. But I think the challenge of learning just something new, completely new, like a SL script, is that it's very difficult to apply it then in real, in industry. And in Equimake, instead of recreating some like proprietary scripting language, we decided to go with just JavaScript. And for those who don't know, JavaScript is just it's a language for web developers. So all the websites we see nowadays run on JavaScript. So the plan is to use to build a system which is called extension system. We don't call it scripting because I think it will detract a lot of people who might be interested in it. So it's called extensions. And extensions, basically, it's a piece of code that allows you to extend functionalities of your experience or make your art behave. And for people who don't know how to code, there will be a catalog of those extensions that you can use super easily. You click install, you configure some parameters, and voila, you got yourself an experience with behavior. So for example, on this picture, you see it's a day, night right now. But let's say you want to change time of day automatically, like every 5 minutes, you want to go to night or to day, you'll be able to install extension this way. So the goal here is to kind of provide open source system that people can build on top and at the same time learn JavaScript, which is a valuable skill nowadays. About 70% of industry in programming is web developers right now. So if we could help somebody to learn web technology, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and I also think at some point in time you can use AI to write the programs as well. One really interesting experiment I did recently was to see if AI could write some Linden scripts for me, and it did it. And Linden is, a proprietary, very old programming language. So, but it did it, and it did it correctly.
Yeah, it's very interesting. For the AI use cases, the way I see it is it will never replace the human touch. Like when you generate an art with let's say Midjourney, you look at it, it doesn't feel like it was made by a human. And what I want to at Equimake, what we want to do is to kind of use AI to help beginners. So if you don't know how to code, you can ask AI to generate a very simple extension. If you don't know how to do 3D art, you can provide it with an image, and it will try to approximate and generate something very simple for you. So the goal is not to replace the human creativity, but rather inspire it and give people ideas of what's possible.
And that's great because you're taking a lot of the sort of the redundant work out of it, right? So that even with programming, that I've been able to generate code that would have taken me hours to do from scratch, but then just debug it afterwards. And the amount of time that it saves is amazing.
Absolutely. Yes, Val, I totally agree with you. I think right now AI and ethics are clashing a lot. We don't want to, at Equimake, honestly, care about privacy. We don't have any ads on the platform. We don't collect any analytics that is unnecessary. We do not attach email to the analytics. So we really take it very, very seriously. And we just want to provide the community the means to create 3D experiences and have fun while doing so. Is there a way to allow teachers to make sure students can interact with strangers? Yes, well, a very good question. So there is a way to do it, is when you create an experience, you just make it private, and there is no way anybody could find it except your students. Yes, your students can still go to a community page and then eventually go into explore other experiences, but we are looking into partner with your schools and actually allow them to self-host Equimake. So instead of having the community page of the entire platform, you'll be able to see a community page of your school and just your school. That's something that we need to discuss with the potential schools if they're even interested in it. And if your school is interested, please let me know, and you could self-host it and have it running on your servers. Awesome. We tried. I think the biggest challenge is always talking to users and trying to understand their use case. As you saw from my presentation, all those stories, it's not always easy. I think AI especially shaped the way we communicate with one another. And I was really upset when one user said, "I thought you were an AI," even though it's me who going into the experiences saying, "Hi, my name is Alex. How may I help you if you have any questions?" And this user said, "I did not believe it was real human because he said the service is too good." And I said, "What do you mean?" He just didn't expect somebody to come in and talk to him. And we're all so used to chatbots. Maybe he thought I'm another chatbot, but I want to change that. I want to bring this communication back where we feel like human and just having fun and collaborate together.
Well, we are at time, and I want to thank you again for coming and doing this wonderful presentation. And I want to thank everyone for attending today. And as a reminder, I'm going to put the YouTube channel link in the chat so that you can find the recording of today's presentation. And also for everybody, we welcome new volunteers to help VWEC, which is open to anyone interested in teaching and learning in virtual worlds. If you are interested in our center, you can get a hold of Sue Moon Magic or Val Librarian. Put that in the chat. We will be having our next expert event on November 8th, and the session is called Curating Virtual Museums in the Metaverse, presented by Brian Aviator. To see all the VWEC calendar events, you can go to this link that I just put in, and I'm going to just put a whole bunch of other links in here just for all of our social media and Instagram. And finally, please join us for our Friday happy hour at the end of the other deck for an informal conversation, and let's just go ahead and walk over there.
Thank you so much, everyone.